Hello, this is Vivica Williams, and you're watching Head to Head. Two Ukrainian political prisoners, journalist Roman Sushchenko and activist Volodymyr Balukh, recently marked their birthdays behind bars. Roman Sushchenko was illegally detained on September 30th, 2016 in Moscow, and Volodymyr Balukh on December 8th the same year. But both have resisted all attempts to break their spirits, despite the constant pressure by the Kremlin's repressive machine. So what else can the Ukrainian government and civil society do to convince Moscow to release political prisoners? Well, to talk more about this and about Volodymyr Balukh, we're joined in the studio today by Denis Savchenko. He's the deputy director of the NGO Crimea SOS. Denis, thank you for being with us today.
Hello.
So let's talk a bit about the medical condition of Volodymyr Balukh. We've followed a lot about his condition, the fact that he was on a hunger or partial hunger strike for more than half a year. So tell us how he's doing at this point.
Volodymyr Balukh is in a quite serious medical condition. 200 days of a hunger strike reflected on his health condition, and of course the conditions of imprisonment are not those that could help him to recover fast, but of course refusal from the hunger strike somehow helped him to stabilize his condition. The other thing that really reflects on his health condition is that the administration of the prison continues to put him under the pressure, to put him in the in conditions where he cannot recover very well. So, and the other problem is that he cannot receive the appropriate medical assistance from the both from the doctors within the prison or the outside medical personnel, because this is like the part of the pressure that Russian officials are putting him under.
Absolutely, and this with all political prisoners, it seems, this denial of outside examinations, this refusal to allow Ukraine to see its citizens. And we'll review really quickly that Volodymyr Balukh was arrested mainly because of his love of Ukraine, and we know that he flew a flag in his courtyard or in his house. A Ukrainian flag, so there was persecution continuously after that. What are some of the negotiations being done on his behalf?
Volodymyr Balukh is accused of two crimes. The first is possession of illegal materials, ammo in particular, in his house. These objects, they were found during the search, which was illegal because there was no presence of Volodymyr Balukh himself. And
supposedly found, if we can mention that, because
yes,
we don't know if they were actually found or, as in many cases, planted there.
And there were different examinations of these supposedly found objects, and there were no fingerprints or other evidences indicating relation of Volodymyr Balukh to these objects were found. And the other accusation is that by somehow destroying the clothes of the head of the prison, that Volodymyr Balukh made the functioning of the prison itself disrupted.
Right. They claimed that he attacked the head of the detention center. And what kind of evidence did they present in this case?
Only the words of representatives of the prison itself and the pieces of clothes of the head of the administration. So no bulletproof, no solid evidences were provided in this case, but they were used very effectively by so-called court and prosecution, the prosecutor's office.
Now, why do you think they because they already had him on these charges that they frequently use against activists. Why do you think they decided to go further with this type of charge against him?
First of all, the initial criminal case was quite weak in a matter of evidences. The second is that Vladimir was very close to release on parole, and this is the answer to your second question: what was the latest negotiations and updates considering his criminal case? His attorney applied two applications to so-called court. The first was about the release of Volodymyr Balukh on parole, and the second one is about recalculation of his term of staying in prison, because previously he had like 4 years and 11 months of imprisonment as the accusation, and the term of the house arrest and being at the pre-trial facility were not counted. Yes, so the defense tried to apply for a calculation and releasing him on parole, and both of these applications were not considered positively. So the so-called court refused both to release him on parole, telling that he is only half a year imprisoned, and there are no, and he had an aggressive behavior.
When also that he would flee because he never took Russian citizenship. He has a Ukrainian passport.
So this situation with the head of administration, it was used to for refusal in releasing Volodymyr Balukh on parole, and the second case in general was used in order to break him psychologically and to prolong his staying into the prison.
And now we know he's been moved to a prison in Kerch city in occupied Crimea that's known for its abusive treatment of prisoners, and we can of course understand why they would want to do that to him. Is there any chance that humanitarian groups or that the ombudsperson of Ukraine will be able to check on his condition?
Both the representatives of civic society and international actors, they are very intensively advocating for access of kind of a mission, or maybe the separate representatives of international community and ombudsperson to different political prisoners imprisoned in Crimea or in the mainland part of Russian Federation. But as of now, there are no solid results of this advocacy. Our ombudsperson, Ms. Denisova, repeatedly traveled to the territory of Russian Federation, but several times she was refused in, like, the latest minute, she was refused in accessing different political prisoners. So as of now, the practice is not very positive in this relation, but we still have a very strong opinion that this has to be advocated and that we have to push forward.
Continuously.
Yes, continuously push forward for in order to gain this access to political prisoners. And this is not only about Volodymyr Balukh, but about many others who are really being imprisoned in very serious conditions.
And speaking of that, we know Balukh is not the only person imprisoned. What are the conditions of other cases, and how other political prisoners are faring in Crimea?
Well, we have some common features, some common things in how Ukrainian political prisoners are being treated. They are under constant psychological pressure. They are refused in accessing of medical personnel. They are refused in receiving the different mails and other things being transferred to them by their relatives and other persons. So somehow they are being put in an informational vacuum that is a very serious threat to their condition, and that deteriorates the time spent in prison in a very serious way. And we have, for example, we have Roman Sushchenko, who turns 50 years in line with Volodymyr Balukh, and he spends the third year in prison, and in line with Volodymyr Balukh, he is under very serious, as I've already told,
right, psychological pressure.
Yes.
And this preventing these attempts to break their spirit, not allowing them to receive letters or visits, it's very disheartening. Yet it seems all of these Ukrainian political prisoners have been able to keep their spirits or their belief and love of Ukraine there.
Well, at least this is what we can hear and see from them when we receive some letters from them, or when their relatives or attorneys, especially attorneys, have a possibility to have a conversation with them. Definitely they understand, somehow they understand that it is very important for them on the first place to keep a good
well, to keep as much as they possibly can this belief.
Yes,
that
in the condition.
Are working
yes,
for
yes,
them, working
definitely.
On their
So, and this is quite surprisingly, this is fantastic how strong these people who are imprisoned are, and it is very important from our side to support them as much as we can. Different organizations, including our organization, implement this kind of projects of sending the letters to political prisoners, and I'm really encouraging all the people, despite you don't know them, despite you often don't know what to write to them, but in reality, all the information, all the common news are very important for them, and they have to feel this connection with the outside world. They have to feel this connection with Ukraine, and this is what anybody can do. This is what anybody can contribute to the situation.
And just on our last note, can you give, in general, how people are able to reach out to them? What kind of routes are available? Because I know there are letter-writing campaigns through Amnesty International and other organizations. What are some of the direct ways that people can send letters?
Well, unfortunately, it is not very easy. There is an electronic system of sharing letters that is...
And people need to write in Russian as well. This is also required.
Yes, yes, this is a very strong requirement, because all letters are censored, all letters are checked, and many of them are banned to be transferred to the political prisoner himself. So we really encourage not to provide some political woes, because we all understand that we fight for the occupation of Crimea and for releasing of all political prisoners. But in this situation, it is very important to share maybe something more positive. Yeah, really to share the positiveness and to share the emotion more than sharing some promises or some news of political character. So, but the best thing is to use these channels established by different civil society actors, because it is very hard to reach those political prisoners, for example, who are being located in like Siberia and other distant regions of Russian Federation. So maybe the direct communication is not a very good option in those conditions that we have now, but we have different organizations, as you mentioned, and maybe this is like the best option to communicate.
Thank you so much for being with us, Denis, and for bringing us these updates on the political prisoner.
Thank you very much.
And that was Denis Savchenko. He's the Deputy Director of the NGO Crimea SOS. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned with UATV for more.